Well, I'm back at it today. I'm still not feeling 100%. But we'll get this little project done. And the intent here for today's episode of Mr. Rodder's Neighborhood was I got a few blocks that need to go to the machine shop, and before they go to the machine shop, I needed to strip them down and then do some oiling mods on them. I generally do the oiling mods before I go to the machine shop, just in case I crack the block. They'll pick it up, and worst case scenarios, you got some oiling mod time in them, and that's about it. And you start off with another block. But today we're going to dive in to this small block Buick I got here. I got a 350 that I've had on the stand for a while, and I knocked all the freeze plugs out and cam bearings and all that, and get it ready to take to the machine shop. And I decided I'll do some oiling mods on it so you guys can follow along and see how it goes. I do a lot of the stuff at just basic hand tools and hand drills, and that's really about as basic as it gets, old school at home. I don't generally have the machine shop drill them. I just drill them myself, and if you end up ruining the block, you ruin the block and throw it in the trash. But I haven't destroyed one yet, luckily, and I don't have any intentions of doing that today. But once I get done with this 350 block, we'll move on. I'll throw the 300 on the stand, and I'll do the 300 block, and then after that I got a 430 that I need to do the same thing on. So we'll go through the basic small block stuff and then into the big blocks. Oiling mods for your basic street strip engines. So stay tuned and then check things out. We'll get the camera flipped around and we'll get started. Here are the basic tools that you're going to use to do your block mods. It's just as simple as a set of drill bits, which, yes, I realize it looks like there's a couple of them missing, but there's technically just one missing. The other one's laying over on the bench there. But I usually start off with your 7/16 bit here, and you work your way up in 64ths until you get to 1/2 inch. That way you're not taking too much material. It has much less chance of cracking the block. But as I said before, as a Buick aficionado, you should own a plethora of drill bits, because these are your friends. This is where you get not so much the performance, but the longevity and reliability of the engine as you increase the performance of the engine. So what I normally do is you try to do all of the oil mods that you would do based on where you want your engine to be in the next 10, 15 years. So I'll open it up some and leave a little bit of room for the next guy, so to ensure that no matter what happens to this engine later on, they can put a different set of heads on it, or a cam, or intake manifold, and still probably have a decent amount of reliability in regards to oiling. So here's a 14-inch long or 12-inch long 1/2 inch drill bit. Here's a TA 9/16 drill bit that was, for some reason, when I ordered, all the other drill bits had been great. This one, for some reason, was bigger than my 1/2 inch chuck on my drill, so I ended up having to turn it down a little bit. And the only thing I did was just grind a bit off on the bench grinder, so it's not exactly true. But once you get the hole started, it doesn't really matter. It'll just move the drill around a little bit. But that's how you start them off. We'll obviously get into this is all block mods. This is all we're going to be doing, is oiling mods for a Buick small block. I got to do this 350, and then a 300, and then after that I got a 430 block we're going to throw up here, and I'll do the same kind of oiling mods to the 430 block. But I always do these mods before I take it to the machine shop, just in case I end up cracking the casting, or you get into something. You can actually have it repaired at the machine shop. And all you have at that point is time invested in the oiling mods, which are costing you nothing, with the exception of some drill bits. And you'll end up using them quite a few times if you do more than one engine. So this is where I normally start off. So make sure you got lubrication, a good drill, and I always use a flashlight to look down in the oiling holes to see how the passages look as I'm cutting them, or as make sure it's still centered. So this is going to be a big video. We'll break it up into multiple sections. All right. Well, in preparation for taking this block to the machine shop, the first oil mod that we're going to complete is drilling out this oil suction pickup. This is a 350 Buick. They do have a 7/16 pickup tube and oil and subsequent oil passage in the block. So this here is 7/16, and then the one that runs the length of the block here inside the block is a 7/16 hole as well. Now I have gone after these things and really tried to open them up to 5/8. The problem is if you look here, which I don't know if you'll be able to see too well, it is that boss right there is the where the motor mount bolt hole goes, and it's easy to get into that boss. It's you don't. It's not that big of a deal if you do, but you'll have to put some kind of a sealant on the bolt hole when you put the motor mount on, so that it doesn't suck air if you end up getting into that boss where the threads and the opening are for the bolt. But I try to take it easy, and this one is virtually just a performance street motor. We're not looking at 6,000 plus RPM. It might hit 5,500 to 5,800, something like that. But we do want to open up these oil passages. The small block virtually has the same oiling system as the V6 Buick. And then the V6 Buick in the later years, they realized it still wasn't getting enough oil, and it has smaller mains. So the 350 Buick, if you look at it that way, is technically inadequate for what it already has, because the mains are 3-inch, and the Buick V6 is 2.5, meaning that there's more bearing surface material here, which requires more oil to maintain your hydraulic wedge on the bearing as the engine operates. Okay, so we do want to open this up. The later V6s went to 5/8, and I imagine that the casting was a little bit, what was changed was modified so that things weren't as close, like this this boss down here for the motor mount. It could have been the same. I have no idea. I haven't had a V6 block that's had the 5/8 pickup factory modification, but we're going to go ahead and open this one up to this opening here to about 9/16, and in the block we'll go to a 1/2 inch, and depending upon how I feel about it, I might go a little bit bigger, but it is a ton of work. And so just to get things started, here's a 7/16 drill bit. So you can see the 7/16 is the number for this thing. That's how big the opening is. If you go to the next size larger, which is 29/64, it does not fit in the hole. Okay, so you're looking at a 7/16 hole here, and then there's also a 90-degree bend down there where this meets the oil hole in the block. So what I like to do is open these up and then try to chamfer that turn down there, or radius that turn, but that's where you easily get into the bolt hole, the boss for the motor mount bolt. So you got to take it easy here, and you can't go too crazy on it. Now, the 364 race motor I got, the machine shop that did the work actually opened this one up to 5/8, but they got it off center and drilled outside the casting, and so they ended up having to install a tube down in there, and they're somewhat easy to fix, just using tubing from the hardware store, and you drill it out to a little bit bigger than the tubing, drive it down in there, and then drill and ream your hole so that the passage is now connected again. But we're going to start off the 7/16, and it may seem a little bit daunting when you first want to start, because you're like, oh gosh, what happens if I get this off center or whatever? Just remember, when you're going the next size up, if you do a 64th, there's barely any material that you're taking off. And what happens is this hole right here is already essentially a pilot hole. So your 64th bigger drill bit is going to essentially center on that hole, and it's going to want to follow it all the way down. So I always start with these shorter ones first, and then I take the same drill bits and I do the first, like say 6 inches in the front of the block, so that I could get a good centered hole to begin with, and then I run my really long drill bits down here after I get the first 6 inches or so drilled, so that way it's already piloted. So this is what we're going to start off with today. So the first thing you're wanting to do is make sure you get some good lube. This is just Makana WD-40, and I'm gonna spray it down in there, and I mean, be generous with it. It's not like, you know, this is something that could really ruin your engine. You get it wrong. So. Here is our oil pump feed line. As I said, I just finished the one in the block, and all it is you're really just moving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This one we are going to have to drill 6 inches, so it is going to take a while to drill that in. But you're only taking a 16 or a 64th of an inch. It will stay centered on that hole pretty much for the most part. You can get it off center, and there is a little bit of wiggle room, but just make sure you take your time. This is where, you know, a machine shop with a drill press is ideal. But I always do them with a hand drill and just go slow. So we lube them up. Here we are back at the main pickup. Add some lube. Okay, and to get you to where you can see what's going on. So this one, like I said, it's kind of easy to get them off center. That's why I like to do it with a hand drill, because you can kind of adjust where you're going. Okay, so I'm going to shine a flashlight down there, and hopefully you can see what's happening here. Now it will generally want to follow the already made opening, the pre-made opening. But as you can see in this, it's a little off center. It's probably like, I don't know, a 32nd of an inch, a little bit more towards the top, which is not really that big of a deal. If you're going to be off center, that's the area to be off center, because if you get off center down at the bottom, it has a possibility of opening it up inside the block. Now, when you're when you're off center towards the top, it's all cast in material behind it. So you got a little bit of wiggle room, and that's not really that big of a deal. I'll try to clean it up some by offsetting, or like by changing the angle of the drill. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, it doesn't have to get perfect as long as we get down there and get the hole opened up, and then don't break through the casting. Okay, so, but a hand drill I feel is a lot easier to control. When you do it on a drill press, you just kind of set it and forget it and walk away and come back later. But this way you can always go 1/4 of an inch and check what you've done, or and just take it slow. If you've noticed that the second drill bit I went to doesn't cut as well as the first, which is fine. I prefer it that way because it's not slipping the clutch on the drill as much, and the drill bit's not trying to take a big bite with the flutes that are on the drill bit, which makes it a little bit simpler, just because It's a little more dull. It's going to take me a bit more time, but it doesn't bite as hard, locking up the clutch on the drill. So we'll take this all the way down. I'll see if I can clean up that being off center just a hair, and we'll see where it goes from there. All right, so I got it bottomed out on the second drill bit, which is 15-30 seconds. And I'm still feeling a little under the weather, God. But the hole is cleaned up. It probably was a little off center, but it looks okay. And especially since it's toward the backside where there's more casting material, which believe it or not, is probably not that big of a deal. It might be a little bit better because it lines up with the hole a little bit better. The feed line in the block, or the pickup line in the block, or whatever you want to call it, the pickup line. And because it's just catching the edge, if you notice from the factory, the way it's drilled, it's just catching the edge of that hole, the way it looks in there. Now, I don't know if I tried this before. I'll see if it works now. Where are we at? Okay, so I got the light coming in from the front, and you can kind of see what it looks like now. Now remember, it's only got a 7/16 hole, pretty much past 5 inches into the block, to this oil pump pickup attachment point. So there's not a lot of light down there, but you can see it's starting to open it up pretty good. Now we're going to keep going, and that's where the fun begins. All right, so here we are at the front of the block. We're gonna run our 1/2 inch in there in the front through the oil feed, or the pickup, I'm sorry, the pickup going to the pump. All right, I had to change out my drill. The chuck just wouldn't take the abuse anymore. So I had to go to the reliable Chinese type from Harbor Freight. So we'll see how this one gets done. This is a bigger diameter, well, it's actually a 1/2 inch, but it's a much bigger drill. So we'll see how it handles this block. Now I got it drilled 5 inches in, and we need to take it the rest of the way with this 12 inches or so. So we'll see how it goes once we get it in there. Okay, so I'm finally through, and here's how much drill bit you normally have left, about an inch. That means this drill bit, I think, is 14 inches long. But let's see if I can get the flashlight in there and zoom in on this thing, and you can see down at the bottom, I finally just kept working it till it broke through, and you can see the bit down there, the drill bit. Now keep an eye on it. I'll spin the drill, and you can see that it's actually the drill bit. Okay, and that's 1/2 an inch. So if you wanted to go a little bit larger, you could. Me, in this case, like I said, it's just going to be a mild street engine. It is going to be plenty of oil. The 1/2 inch hole is what fed the 455. So, and I'm not going to try to get greedy because I don't want to break into the bosses here for the motor mount, which you can see a lot better right here. I'm sorry, right here. And there's another one right here. Okay, so I just didn't want to get into the motor mount bolt holes. It just is a pain in the butt, and I really don't like the idea of it having a possibility of sucking air. But I think this is plenty for today. I know a 1/2 inch doesn't seem like a lot, but it is a ton. I mean, as you saw, it's virtually 5 drill bit sizes up, and the diameter is increased by quite a bit. Tomorrow we'll start on maybe open up the main saddle feed holes. I like to take them. There's 2 of them. I think there's 2 of them that's 1/4 inch, and then the other one's 5/16, and then bigger, and then even bigger up here, like 3/8 or something. But I like to take them all out to 5/16, and same way on the 300, same thing. So I'll show you how to do that tomorrow, and that's it for today. So hopefully I can piece this together and get you a nice video up today. All right, thanks. I'll see you later.